Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to welcome Pat Flynn with his presentation for CPP 30619, Operational Safety. Welcome along, Pat.
Hello, everybody. Okay, this presentation deals with operational safety as an investigator or a compliance officer for that matter, and it deals with the work health and safety component of the course that you're doing. So compliance officers and investigators need to operate safely in a working environment that's sometimes threatening and it's sometimes dangerous. The primary concern with this training presentation is to assist compliance officers and investigators to operate in such a way that ensures their own safety. The big issue is your safety comes first at all costs. No one should get hurt doing their job, and hopefully there'll be a few points in here that'll help you achieve that. The biggest issue with staying safe is preventing the opportunity. Incidents which place compliance officers and investigators in an unsafe situation can be prevented by using situational awareness, common sense, and some good sound tactics. Why do incidents occur? Many compliance officers and investigators are assaulted because they adopt poor positioning. They put themselves in a position where it's unsafe rather than a safe position. A really big one, or a really big two, are being too casual in their approach and being hesitant. Sometimes you'll get a gut feeling where something doesn't look right, and rather than hesitating and looking and waiting for it, when you get that gut feeling, trust it. Your natural instincts, they're there for a reason. Boredom and overconfidence are another couple of reasons where people put themselves in a position where they end up getting assaulted. Situational awareness is probably the most important habit contributing to your safety in the field, and awareness is really the big issue. You should be aware of your surroundings at all times. Over the years, the times that I've been assaulted or things have occurred is because I wasn't being aware of my surroundings, and I've been hit from behind or pushed from behind when I should have been aware of what's going on around me. You need to develop skills in identifying and assessing potential and actual risks. And the biggest problem is being complacent. You've got to be on awareness right from the start, even to the point where you pull up out the front of a premises or a place where you're going to visit, and you need to start scanning around and looking for things that may cause you a problem as far as your personal safety goes. Threat assessment means accurately weighing up any person, object, or place that could put you at risk. Now, with the person, you might find that they may be affected by drugs, they may have a mental illness, there may be a lot of reasons why that person is dangerous. They may have a medical condition, like they might be bipolar or schizophrenic, something like that. Not common, but it can happen. But you need to be on high alert and being aware of it. Objects that you come in contact with during your interaction with people can be used as a weapon and will pose as a threat. So if you go to visit a premises and someone's standing in the front yard with gardening tools, those gardening tools can potentially be a problem for you. The place where you are can be a threat. So if you're going to meet someone, and here in Queensland, it's very common to have high set houses that are raised up off the ground, and you have a set of stairs that walk up to the front door. Don't stand in front of the stairs, immediately in front of the door. So if someone comes out and they're angry, they could push you down the stairs. So the place where you are can be a problem. Now, threats may be known or unknown. They might be tangible, such as an item that you've identified that could be used as a weapon and present as a possible danger. It can be anticipated due to the circumstances or suspicion of what you could reasonably be expected. So if you pull up outside a premises where you're going to have an interaction with someone who's of a younger age, and you can hear loud music, you catch a glimpse of someone walking past the door or the window with a can of Jim Beam in their hand. By recognising threats at the earliest opportunity, you'll be able to choose a course of action to maintain your safety. Having a plan and being switched on when you go to have interactions or visit premises, you must do that to maintain your safety. Time allows you to make logical, conscious decisions. Use your problem-solving skills. Don't rush into places. Pull up out the front, have a bit of a look, scan around, see what's going on. You might find that you catch a glimpse of a dog in the yard. You don't know that dog's safe, or it might be an aggressive dog. Plan to deal with that. Whether you ring the person that you're going to meet inside the premises that owns that dog, sing out to get them to come out to make sure they have control of the dog while you are meeting with them. Attempt to create a situation where no one's forced into making rash decisions. Taking things slowly and not rushing into things head down will always be better for you than rushing, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where, oh hell, I wish I'd have slowed up a little bit when I went into this place. Time may prevent the subject from making a rational decision. Sometimes people get very nervous when you meet with them, and you may find that they're upset at the fact that you're meeting with them, or they're anxious about it. And because of that, you might find that they may act irrationally because of that fear or anxiety. Human beings are limited by reaction time and a reduced ability to function under stress. So when you're dealing with people who are stressful, they don't think correctly. The front part of their brain that is used for decision making, sometimes that gets switched off because they're very aggressive in their mind or their attitude, and they're not thinking correctly. Distance is a really good thing. Establish an appropriate distance depending on the type of threat presented. When you meet with people, I keep a little bit of a distance as I'm approaching them. I'll assess them, whether it's over the fence looking at them in the front yard, or as I approach them, I won't walk straight up to them. I'll just chat to them from a slightly greater distance than when you're going to start talking to them, just so you can assess what they're like and get a feel for how their attitude is. The level of threat is proportionate to the proximity to the source of the threat. The greater the distance between you and the threat, the less risk you will face. Distance equals safety. Continuous threat assessment enhances safety. The greater the distance between you and a subject, the greater the reaction time that you have available to you. Reaction time is the time that you need to respond to any action initiated by the subject. I remember through all of my previous police training, we were always taught that if you were standing there interacting with someone who was 8 meters away and they decided to rush at you, they would nearly reach you before you have got your reaction time calculated and you do something about that rushing at you or that threat. So keep the distance. Another thing that I always do when I'm talking to people, I keep out of kicking range. Usually you'll find that if you're out of kicking range, that's a little bit of a buffer for you. Hopefully you've assessed that person before you go up closer to them, but you should always be well aware of the fact that they may get angry for no apparent reason at really short notice. when speaking with someone, the best position of safety is in what is commonly termed the interview position. It's in front of the subject, but off to one side, either the left or the right, while maintaining a safe distance. And as I said,
That's Alex.
You've got to maintain that safe distance, so keep out of kicking range. Another thing that I always do, when I'm interacting with someone, and it doesn't matter whether it's a male or a female that you're interacting with, I always try to get some indicators of which is their dominant hand, if they're left-handed or right-handed. Now, if they're right-handed, the best place to stand to them, when you're interacting with them, is have them on your left while you're facing at a 45-degree angle to them. The reason being, their right hand's the one that might hit you the hardest. Their right leg might be the leg that kicks you the hardest. So if you're off on an angle to their right-hand side, it makes it difficult for them to hurt you. If they're left-handed, similarly, stand on the other side where you have them to your right. So assessing people whether they're right or left-hand dominant, look at the way they gesture. Look at the things, if they've got their watch on their right or their left hand, albeit that doesn't mean much. Keanu Reeves is left-handed and he wears his watch on his left hand. So that's not like 100% indicator. But if you look at what hand they wear their watch on, what hand they gesture with, what hand they hold objects with, you'll generally work out fairly quickly, yes, this looks like a right-handed person. It's not 100% foolproof, but it's factoring in another means to keep safe. So keeping the person in that interview position, offset to the side, never face them straight on either. So you always stand so you're on an angle to them as well. Don't stand directly in front of the subjects. This leaves you open to a direct attack and can also be interpreted as being a little bit confrontational or you're becoming aggressive. So if you angle your body slightly away from the subject you're dealing with, that always is less aggressive than standing directly in front of them. The other issue with standing directly in front of them is the fact that all of the areas of your body that are going to hurt you the most are right down the center line of your body at the front. So if you stand to the side, you've got a little bit of buffer with your arm and the side of your body, the side of your torso, so that's protecting that line down the middle of your stomach, such as your groin, your solar plexus, your nose, that sort of thing. So standing on an angle is always the best. Maintain your balance so you can move away quickly. Having balance and a balanced stance, you don't want to be trying to move while your legs have been crossed. While you're talking to him, you might cross your legs. That's really dangerous. Stand so that you've got a balanced stand. Normally have your feet sort of nearly shoulder width, but have them apart and balanced so that if you need to move, you can immediately move and get out of the road or run away. So that's a really important thing. Some people are and will remain difficult, regardless of your level of interpersonal skills. So no matter how easy you've come up to deal with them, how calmly you've been, some people are naturally aggressive. Their attitude is their responsibility and their choice. It's something that's not within your control. Nevertheless, you do have a choice about how to respond to them. So when you've got a difficult person, try and listen to them, consider their point of view. It can be the first step in resolving issues. I always let people vent because they'll usually want to tell you what they want to tell you when you first interact with them. Don't interrupt them. Let them have a chance to say what they want to say. Then you can start exploring the reasons for their point of view. You can put forward your point of view with why you're there and what you need to do. Try and look for, and suggest to them alternative ideas. Try and gain their cooperation. The moment you get them angry and they don't like you, it is really difficult to turn that around, and generally you won't turn that around. So slowly catch the monkey. If you take your time and be calm when you deal with them, that's the best approach. You've got to try and control the situation. So in response to their aggressive or difficult behaviour, I tend to find that people, when they're agitated or upset, they'll talk loudly and they'll talk really quickly. And you've got to try hard to keep your voice a little bit lower than theirs. I've always found that this will help control an already hostile situation. So if you talk a little bit quieter, they can't hear you over their loud voice. So they tend to speak a little bit lower so that they can hear what you're saying. The other thing I try and do is speak clearly, and I always speak a little bit slower than I normally would. That slow speech, again, that's another thing that will start to control the situation and calm the person to a degree. You've got to be confident and neutral in your posture, but be aware of your non-verbal communication. Your non-verbal communication can be little trigger points that will set someone off. Personal space is a really big one. So if you're not close to them or not too close to them, respect that personal space. The personal space, that's not going to be an issue if you keep back a little bit. Watch your body posture. If you're standing there square onto them in front of them, that can be seen as a sign of aggression for them. So again, take that softer angle to the side approach and just maintain neutral body posture. Another thing that'll present a problem is prolonged eye contact. When I'm dealing with people, it's disrespectful to not look at people when you talk to them, but don't have prolonged eye contact. I tend to look at them for a second or two, and then I'll drop my eyes for a second, and then I'll look back at them, and I'll look up and down. You're still maintaining contact with them, to watch what they're doing. Even if you're looking at their feet, you can see what the rest of their body's doing with your peripheral vision. So try and avoid prolonged eye contact. One of the biggest things I like to do when people are really venting is just use silence to de-escalate. Let them vent.
I'm going to have to ask for a reasonable adjustment. I'm sorry, G. I can't see it on the screen. Yeah, sorry about that. I do apologise.
Use silence to de-escalate. One of the things that I find when you've got someone who's venting and they're really angry, let them blow themselves out. Just stand there, let them talk, let them keep talking, and even after they've finished, wait another second or so that they've finished getting all the things out that they wanted to say. I've even had people, when I do that, look at me and say, well, and I'll just respond by saying, look, I was just letting you have your say so that I can fully understand what the issue is that you're talking about. And just from that point on, you usually find if someone has a vent and you let them talk and then you talk a bit softer and slower, that'll generally lead to... Sometimes when people are venting, if you let them vent out completely and then after they've finished saying what they've had to say, you can then start interacting with them in a softer, lower voice and a slower voice, and you can generally start working towards some sort of solution. Generally, when you're going to meet people, you're there for a reason. Now, from an investigator's point of view, a PI view, from an investigator's point of view and a PI point of view, generally the times when you'll have a little bit of a confrontational approach with people is when you're dealing with them on general insurance matters. They've got a claim in, they think you're going to try and weasel out of the complaint or the claim that they've got. They will be very wary with you when you go to approach them. When you're going to do things on behalf of workers' compensation claims and you're dealing with workplaces and employers, they're not going to be aggressive to you. because you're there to assist them in managing the claim. So general insurance is probably the time when you're going to find someone's going to maybe get a bit upset. Rarely it happens, but sometimes it does. So let them have a vent. You'll usually get the issue of, I've got this claim in. Are you going to try and not pay this? Because if you do, I'm going to go to current affair and tell them about it. So they'll do things like that just to sort of set the scene in regards to what their expectations are. So you always have that little bit of an option in letting them have a talk and then start discussing it. You've got to be confident, but you've got to be careful. Set boundaries. You're there for a reason, whether it's a general insurance investigation or it's some sort of an issue that you have to deal with them. Try and explain to them by setting boundaries that I can't help you if you're going to be difficult like this, or if you're going to continue to interrupt me or swear at me, we're going to get nowhere. I'm here to help you with your claim, for example. So set some boundaries. Try not to allow yourself to be intimidated. It's very hard. Sometimes people, when they get aggressive, they'll get inside your personal space. Try to maintain your confidence, but be well aware that if they're getting close to you, it's an aggressive situation. So speak lowly, but then speak firmly and assertively. Tell them, look, I can't deal with your claim. The claim's going to have to remain unprocessed until you calm down. And you just be very, very specific with that. I can't handle your claim. I can't deal with your claim. I can't get the information for the insurer if you're going to be upset and aggressive. Your voice tone should be calm and confident. That's what I was saying before. No matter what, avoid becoming aggressive in any way. It could provoke physical violence that is going to result in you getting hurt. The best thing to do is walk away. Just withdraw yourself from the situation. Maintaining a suitable distance back from the person and using the triangle of safety that I spoke to, the interview position before, is the best way for you to maintain your safety. Raise your awareness of other people, the exits where they are if you're inside a premises or a room. Look where the door is. The worst place you want to be is on the other far corner or the far side of the room away from the door if you need to get out. Be careful of the environment. Try and have something that creates a safety barrier. Put something between you and the person who's aggressive, such as talk to them on the other side of the table. If you're going to talk to them where there's a table. If you're talking to someone and they appear a bit aggressive when they're in the front yard meeting you, stay on the other side of the fence so you can have a bit of a chat to them and try and calm them a little bit before you actually step inside the fence. Maintaining that awareness of your exits, your environment, and all that sort of thing is really important. Another thing that a lot of people should really pay attention to is when you're going to meet people and you're going to drive onto their property. If they've got a driveway on a rural property, acreage, or even if it's just a big block and you've got a driveway to drive up, when you drive up the driveway, make sure you spend time on your arrival to turn your car around and point it towards the exit or the gate out of the place. The last thing you want to be doing is if you've nosed your car into the premises, someone gets aggressive, then you've got to start doing a reverse 3-point turn to get out of there. It puts you in danger, and it's a likelihood where you might get hurt. Best case scenario is you should be able to walk out of the place, disengage from the interaction you've got, get in your car, start it up, and away you go without having to move it or maneuver it. These things are always your situational awareness things. You've got to maintain that situational awareness. Consider your safety first and foremost. No one should go to work and come home injured. And as I said, remove yourself from the risk. Avoid injury. And that's by keeping something between you, a barrier. If you've got someone who's rushing towards you, There's nothing wrong with pushing a chair sideways in front of them and you getting out behind so that you're not going to get hurt. Defend yourself if you have to, but don't end up in a punch-up. Defending yourself is what I mean by, say, let's hold up your folder that you've carried, like your briefcase or whatever you've got. There's nothing wrong with holding that in front of you to stop you getting punched or kicked. But if you sense anything like that, trust your gut feeling or your instincts and just quietly remove yourself from the risk. So in summary, the continuous threat assessment, that enhances safety. Your threat assessment and your situational awareness is really important. Distance equals safety, so give people some distance until you can get comfortable with talking to them. No one's going to talk to you unless they feel comfortable talking to you. So having a little bit of distance is less confrontational from you to them. So that allows you to use your good personal skills, your interpersonal skills and your talking skills to be able to calm them down. Poor body positioning, putting yourself in the wrong place, and poor awareness leaves compliance officers and investigators vulnerable to assault. Maintaining your balance and ability to move away or run away if necessary are key skills for safety. Last of all, good communication skills and good teamwork, if you're working with someone else, they enhance your safety. So good communication skills. I've always found the most skilled people that I've worked with as investigators are tradesmen, or butchers are great. I've worked with some butchers over the years, and butchers are very quick on the gab and they can talk to anyone and calm them down, and they're very good. So developing those communication skills and looking for reasons how not to upset people is really important.
You won't get better advice than that. Pat, thanks very much for coming in. I really appreciate you coming in today. So what's the practical application of being safe when you're out there? Pat's talked about it when you've been going out to take a statement from somebody's house. A lot of statements during COVID have been taken over the internet, so they're done through a case management system on a monitor and a recorder. But that will pass and you'll be going back to see people again in their homes or in their workplaces, that sort of thing. Most of the time you're helping them get what they want. But what if you're an undercover worker? And what if you're in a situation where you are offered drugs? Now, whether you're a recreational drug user or not, you could get yourself in a fair bit of trouble with everybody's eyes on you at a party or an event. Now, in this presentation, I talk about a Whizzinator. Now, a Whizzinator is something that those people out there in forestry, mining and construction, health, education might be very familiar with. It's freely available on the internet, and basically it's for beating drug tests. Now, you can Google it. It's called a Whizzinator. And here in this presentation, I'm going to go through, you might be an undercover person at a party. What happens when you're offered drugs? How can you get out of it? You've got to think quickly, you've got to think on your feet, and here's some guidance. If a corporation has a problem with people stealing from their workplace or using drugs in their workplace or dealing out of their workplace or something, well, that's just a corporation's risk management issue. So what that means is you've got to get the evidence yourself if you're the corporation. The police are too busy with terrorism, bank robbers, all that sort of thing. So the undercover people will be engaged to go in. No, you don't get 2 lots of pay. You just get paid to be a private investigator. So what's some of the situations or a situation that you could get yourself in that's dangerous as an undercover worker? It could happen in the workplace or as part of your cover. You're invited to a party and this happens. So you're now in serious trouble. You're at a social event related to your undercover thing that you had to go to that you can't avoid because it's important to the operation. And you've just been offered drugs in that social situation. Now, if you're an undercover cop, oh yeah, you just get stuck into it. That's fine. They're allowed to do that. And if they're asked to go and sell it, they go and sell it. That's part of their role. But if you're a licensed private investigator, you touch that, you will be untouchable in the industry. So you've got to have a response to what everybody's looking at you about. They're going to go, okay, you've just been offered a line. You're going to take it, mate. And you've got to be able to say, no, I'm not, and why? And you've got to be able to matter-of-factly cover yourself so you don't blow your cover. And it goes like this. You go, oh, look, that's fantastic. I'd really love to. But one of the engineers at work last week got caught using a Whizzinator, and consequently we're on blanket tests now for the next 3 months. And the next test is on Monday. And, 30 years ago, they'd all go, oh, bummer, man. That really sucks. They don't do that anymore. These are all now professionals who are sucking this stuff up their nose, and they understand workplace health and safety. And they understand that you could be in a role in your workplace where you are drug tested and that you would lose your job for it. Now, if you get a question from someone there and they say, well, what do? You just say, well, I'm in F services. All right, what part? Avionics. That should keep them thinking about that for the next 10 years. So you've got to be able to roll that off your tongue. Now, what is a Whizzinator? Every junkie addict that's professional knows what a Whizzinator is.